Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before getting to it with our guest, well, first of all, she has her own guest that's going to be a part of the show for as long as the dog wants. I mean, that's just an incredibly cute dog. But we have Meghan Stokes on the podcast. And yeah, she's on here to share her health and fitness journey, just discuss all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Meghan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I'm super excited to be here, to be honest.
Well, for all the listeners, what's the dog's name? So you said it's a Yorkie, first of all?
It's a Yorkie poo, and his name is Bentley. He's 2.5.
That's a good name. But on the flip side of having a small dog, the only problem is that like you got to watch it constantly when you let it out and stuff like that and worry about coyotes and stuff. And then I have other neighbors that have like big Alaskan Huskies. And then you're just like, yeah, you don't have to worry about crap with that, where you're just like,
Exactly. No, that's the thing. And like we've been in our house for 5 years, and we don't have a fenced in yard. He's a runner. I would love to let him outside, but until we have a fence, like I cannot even trust him. Like without being on his leash on the back deck, like I can't let him run loose because he's gonna take off or he's gonna get swooped up by an eagle. So
well, if I didn't mention this in the intro, you can tell just by listening to her for 4 seconds that she's Canadian. We could tell when you were talking a little bit there. So I just wanted to bring that out there. She's coming to us from New Brunswick, where the time difference is just ridiculous. She's 2 hours ahead of me, which I thought that like it was only like a part of Maine, and then I forgot that I didn't even know that she was Canadian until
there's other parts
she
of the
answered the phone
world that
too.
exist beyond Maine.
That's not true. That's not true. I don't buy it. I think it's just a whole big conspiracy. No, and this is coming from someone where I actually have. So this is my little Canadian story before we even get into your journey. It's the most pathetic story you've ever heard in my entire life. I was visiting friends in Duluth for college, and I had like they were in classes for the day because I had gotten the day off. So I usually didn't take classes on Friday. So I went up there like on Thursday night, and then I had all Friday to myself until like in the afternoon. And they're like an hour away from the Canadian border. So I was like, oh, I just go up there and see what happens. So I went up there and I asked the border patrol person, I said, listen, I'm not going to do anything. Can I just like step over the line and take a photo, and then I'll step right back over? It's like, oh yeah, we get that all the time. You can just like cross the line. So I've technically stepped into Canada. So I've been to Canada, everyone. I'm a multi-nation traveler, and I'm so experienced and everything. So
Wow, that's so exotic of you to have put one foot into our
oh
country and
my God.
said that you've
And
been
even
to
though, and
Canada.
even then I was like, no, I'm good. I was like, I've had enough. I've had enough Canada for my life. No,
I take offense to that like harshly. Speaking from experience, because like I've like somebody has actually said that to me one time. Plus, isn't that close to like Toronto anyways? Like the place to be in Canada. Everybody wants to go to Toronto when they come to Canada, and I'm pretty sure Minnesota's
it's
like
closer to
close to that
Winnipeg.
border. Oh, it's closer to Winnipeg.
It's
Okay.
like right below Winnipeg.
Okay, never mind then,
Like
because like I
Thunder
feel
Bay
like
is another
everybody's always like,
Thunder Bay is where I was basically when I crossed over.
okay, so yeah, that is Ontario, but yeah, okay, never mind. I thought it was closer to Toronto. I'm off in my geography a little bit.
God, and they think us Americans are so bad at geography.
Oh, we know more about you guys
Oh,
than you know about us. That's for sure.
oh yeah, hey, it's the little brother syndrome. I'm just kidding, everyone. But no, I am well traveled though in the States though, because as you can see, all those rally monkeys are all the Major League Baseball stadiums that I've been to. So yeah,
That's awesome.
there is that. So before we get into all of the Canadian American things, because believe me, we could just spend the entire podcast doing that. Meghan, why don't you just give us your backstory on what inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to where you're at right now.
Oh, I love it. So, kind of like you were saying to me earlier, actually, like I grew up playing sports, like fanatic at sports. I have a younger brother. He's more of an artsy person. Like I'm very artistic too, but like I followed my more athletic side, I guess, if you will, like growing up. So my parents put me in sports really young. I played soccer, I played basketball, I swam, I was in like a recreational bowling league, if you want to call that sports. I don't know. But then getting into high school, like or getting into middle school, I got really competitive with basketball and soccer in particular. I had the opportunity. It's funny. I actually always like. I'm a teacher. My full time job is a teacher, so I always like to tell my students this story about how I had the opportunity to play basketball provincially, because obviously Canada provinces, right, not states, but like so I guess statewide it would be for you guys the equivalent of statewide, right? So I had the opportunity to play for a province, like a provincial team, and my dad was actually the coach of the house league like program that I was playing for at the time. I was in probably like grade 7 or 8, And a scout from the provincial team had actually been like at one of the games, just like seeing like for recruitment purposes if there were any players that were worthy of joining the team. And apparently he had asked my dad after a game one time in the middle of the winter if like two players in particular from the team would be interested in coming, me and another girl. And he didn't know that the coach was also my dad. And he's like, I can tell you for one thing. And so, and I didn't know this. Keep in mind that I didn't know this until years later, and I'll get to that in a second. But he asked my dad, and my dad was like, "No, we're not really interested at this time, but you can speak to, you can get in contact with the other girl's parents, and maybe she'd be interested in playing." Years later go by, like I played basketball to the end of middle school, never tried out for my high school team just because I didn't think I was good enough, didn't think I had the skill, didn't think like I was athletic enough to compete with those girls. And plus, the coach was very intense, let's say, and he had high standards for his team, and I get that. Anyway, so probably like grade 11, I find out years later from my dad, like, why didn't you, like, he asked me one day, like, out of the blue, I don't know why, he asked me, like, Meg, why did you never try out for the high school team? Like, why did you never try JV or whatever? And I said, well, I didn't think I was really that good enough. Skill wasn't that good enough. He said, you know, I always thought you were good enough when I coached you. And he said, actually have a story for you now that I can tell you now. And he told me that whole story. I was so pissed off at my father. And I love my dad. I'm closer with my dad than I am my mom. I love them both dearly, but like my dad, I'm a daddy's girl, like whatever. And I was so mad at my dad for so long about that story that I gave him the silent treatment as any 16-year-old at the time would do. Like I was just so upset. So upset. I was like, you basically like killed my dreams of like wanting to play high school basketball. Could have gone further with that, maybe played at university, whatever. Anyways, so, but yeah, no, I continued to play other sports though. Like I got into high school, played soccer, volleyball, and then by grade 11, I had found actually field hockey, which I came to fall in love with. And played for the last 2 years of my high school career. We won two back-to-back provincial championships with my team. It's the only two provincial championships that high school's ever won since. And then I started coaching after that too, and I got into my career and whatnot. And throughout university, I started coaching. So now I still coach field hockey for the girls at that same school. So yeah, so always involved in sports, and then went to university after that. And around where I'm from, if you guys know Canada, you know that we have two official languages, which is French and English. I am bilingual. I am Français and English, and I went to around my community. There's a French university, so I went to study in French because in my province in particular, we are the only official province within the only official country that is bilingually French and English. So very high standards for language in my province. So I went to a French university to have the most opportunity possible to get a job as a teacher when I came out in my community. And sure enough, it paid off because I ended up getting hired as soon as I came out of 5 years of university with my bachelor's degree. But I didn't play university sports, so I kind of like let myself go in the sense that, you know, university happens, you party, you drink, you eat a lot, you get new friends. And I met my husband, actually, my current husband, who was obviously at the time like my boyfriend, in my third year university. He's 2 years younger than me. And, you know, we met when he was in first year, got really close, started dating, and then you get comfortable in a relationship, right? So university partying and friends, and on top of that, a relationship, a new relationship, you go to eat, you whatever. So throughout my like last couple of years of university, I started like noticing that I was gaining weight and getting uncomfortable in my skin. And, you know, every time I looked at pictures, I absolutely like I was never a confident person. I was never the fastest athlete. I was never the most built athlete. I was never, anyways, like I was the in between girl. I was like not fat, but I wasn't skinny, and anyways, had the didn't have the thigh gap that was always looked for in the early. Remember the early 2000s when girls needed the thigh gap and the skinny little legs? That was the look of my time. Okay, and I didn't have that look. I never fit that mold. I never looked like that. So I find now the standards for beauty and athleticism is more like geared to what my body structure looks like now. Anyways, so yeah, gained a lot of weight. And then by the end of university, like I had graduated, and after graduation, when I look back at like graduation pictures from university and just pictures I had with my at the time boyfriend, now husband, I was just so disgusted with how I looked that like I knew a couple years out, I was starting into my career, I needed to make a change because I just couldn't look at pictures. And you know how they say like pictures and videos like add 20 pounds or whatever. Well, no, Megan's lifestyle had added like 20 pounds or more. And I just like, it was just embarrassing. And I was like, if I look like this in pictures, there's one like picture in particular that I look at still to this day and use it as my original like comparison picture, even to now after like into bodybuilding and whatnot. that I can't even like I can look at it obviously now and be proud of how far I've come, but I look at it still and I'm like, how did I let it get to that point? Anyways, so needless to say, I joined a program, a local like I had done dieting. Keep in mind that I'm going to flip back and forth here a little bit, but I had done diets. It was like it was the culture of like parents who did dieting, the generational dieting thing, or my mom did all the diets, Atkins and Weight Watchers and all the things. And I watched her do it for years and be unsustainable with it and just stop and start and stop and start. And I did those with her for like, fun, but also because in my heart and in my head, I had no confidence, no self esteem, and just was completely unhappy with how I looked. So I would do those diets with her in the hopes that I would actually lose weight too, and never kept it off either. Anyways, so and then I found this program. I knew about this program in my local community that was started by two local women here in the Moncton, New Brunswick area, and it was called Your Way Weight Loss. And now they're huge on the internet. If you look them up on Instagram, like they have tens of thousands of followers now. But I owe them a lot because they absolutely changed my life. They helped me change my habits and my lifestyle. And I finally got on board with them in what would it have been, 2017, January 2017. And so I started to like lose weight in a sustainable way, and found that like the program really helped me learn what flexibility was, what like helped me understand like there's no labeling foods as good or bad. It's just like if you can create a calorie deficit in whatever lifestyle you're living, you can lose weight in a sustainable way. Learned a lot of tools from them and lost my weight gradually over time through that program for like years. And once like a 2 or 3 years in, like into the pandemic era, like by 2020, I was at a weight that I had lost about 35 pounds. I was down to a healthy weight. And I was living in a comfortable body, and I was happy with where I had gotten to. Over this time as well, while losing weight, I also started to develop a passion for the gym. Like I knew that part of my journey losing weight, like at the beginning, it was like definitely going to the gym to lose weight. But then as I started like seeing the progress of what it could do for my body, it became more than just like I have to go to the gym to lose weight. So at the beginning, it was like maybe not, I wasn't as motivated, let's say. I was only motivated or driven by the fact that I was going to get a result on the scale. But then you start to see muscle development and progress and physique changes and stuff like that. So I started it really early on. So in 2017, but then it just progressed throughout my journey. So then I started to get interested a couple of years in. By the time I got to my healthy weight, at that point already, I was like interested in programming for myself. This is before I got a certification in personal training and nutrition in myself. I was just interested in like, I was like, okay, what can I challenge myself to do now? Like lifting weights was something that was becoming such an important part of my life. And again, like I said, it was helping me sustain a lifestyle that I was loving. And then probably I'd say at the end of 2020, early 2021, I joined with a coach for powerlifting. I started getting really interested in like heavy lifting, and I was already doing it a little bit on my own, but I wanted somebody to help me fine tune my skill and my technique and my form so that I wasn't hurting myself, because I was finding that like I'm a go 150% all the time kind of person. And let's be real, I still to this day sometimes overtrain, but like I was definitely training 7 days a week, hardcore, too many exercises, too many reps. But I wanted somebody to help me fine tune. So I was getting into powerlifting, and then he helped me like train powerlifting for about a year. So from 2020 to 2020, end of 2021 or into 2022, I got married in 2022 to my husband. Yeah, what are we, 2024? Yeah, so 2022, I got married. And by the end of that, like I'd say probably around even a little bit earlier than this time of year, maybe like around my birthday in April, I started to consider the possibility of bodybuilding. Like I was still with my coach. It's been about a year with my coach for powerlifting, but I had watched one of my friends. I go to Good Life. It's a corporate gym here, a big corporate gym here in Canada. And my friend at the time was still working, I believe, as a personal trainer at that gym. And we had grown to know each other just through that gym. And I'd done a couple programs with her there, like group classes and stuff. And she had started bodybuilding about a year or two before me, and had gone through a couple coaches, went through one prep with another coach who like, not saying anything bad about the coach, obviously no names to be named, but it just didn't go well for her. She struggled afterwards, didn't get the right kind of programming for her body, for her like specific needs. And then the reverse was just a nightmare of a process. Then she found this other coach who is now my current coach and still her coach to this day. And I like saw her go through a second prep with this new coach and watched her absolutely destroy the competition. She won overall in wellness, and she was absolutely rocking it. And I saw a lot of my journey in hers just because I looked at her, saw like she had more muscle already than me. She'd been in the gym a little bit longer than me. She's been in about 11 years. I'm now in about year 8, 9. But she had been in the gym. She's been in the gym for about 11 now. And I saw my physique kind of resemble hers because my journeys kind of resembled hers too, because she was a power lifter with the powerlifting coach that I had before. And then she moved into bodybuilding. So I was so inspired by her. I still to this day tell her all the time, like she's the one that inspired me mostly to get into this. And then so I started picking her brain in 2022 around this springtime, like in April, about this coach. And actually, maybe even earlier than I had already started asking her questions. End of 2021, when I had started thinking about even bodybuilding. Then asked her questions. I picked her brain constantly. Every time I saw her at the gym, like she was probably so annoyed with me. Like it was just like, tell me the nitty gritty. Tell me about prep. Tell me about your coach. Tell me about like what it takes. Like what's the diet like? What's stepping on stage like? How much does it cost? All these things. And I was so like in awe of what she was telling me that I knew that that was the next logical step for me. I knew that was like a style of training that I could see myself doing for a long time. Powerlifting, I loved. I loved what it gave me. I loved all the things that I achieved with it, 1 rep maxes and all that, but it was so hard on my body and I wasn't recovering well. I probably wasn't doing the proper diet. Like I wasn't zoned into the diet as I should have been then. I wasn't concentrated on the sleep portion and the stress management portion that I needed to be. So there's probably a lot of factors that played into that too, but like it just took a toll on my body physically. So I was like, I want to switch up my focus. And I saw bodybuilding as like this more lifelong sustainable style of training. Whether I stepped on a stage or not, whether I continue to step on a stage or not, it just seems more like a style that allows me to still push goals and push weights and push strength, but allows me the better recovery in between workouts. So I asked her a lot of questions. And then my wedding obviously took a lot of priority during that time as we were finishing up plans for July. And then in about July, around the time of the wedding, I started talking to my powerlifting coach and saying, listen, I said, I'm just ready for something different. I thank you so much for all that you gave me. Please don't ever feel like this is because of you or anything that you did. It's just, I'm looking for a different focus now and I've got to go a different way. And we ended on good terms. Things were great. And then I started crossing over and talking to my current coach in that summer. And I said, I'm not ready right now. I'm getting married. Funds are tight. But I said, probably come fall, just know that you're the person that I'm most interested in signing up with to start looking into a prep. I would like to do a bodybuilding show, however long it takes. I don't care if it's in a year or two. You're going to tell me. I'm going to put my trust in you to know when that time is. And so he said, yeah, shoot me a like we'll chat. We'll be in conversations. Shoot me a message whenever you're ready, like in the fall. And so, he goes to the same gym as me, which is fantastic. He's an online coach, but he goes to the same gym as me. So does get to see me. He doesn't train me in person, but he does get to see me, gets to see my physique change in person over time. And like, so basically what he admits to it now, it's funny, we laugh about it because he said, I basically watched you over those couple months before you actually signed up with me to kind of see what your training was like, what your work ethic was like in the gym, like how hard basically how hard I pushed myself. Right. And he said, I knew from the beginning that you were going to be one of those people that would be an amazing client to coach because you work hard and you're consistent and you just stick with it. I could see it from the beginning. So sure enough, I signed up with him in October 2022. And actually, it's funny, after the show the other day, because body dysmorphia, he wants to make sure I'm getting myself set up for post show. Obviously, he showed me some comparison pictures, and he did say, like, the first ones we took were in October. This was what your physique looked like in October. The second set he showed me was the first time I started posing in prep, early on in prep in 2023, and then show day 2023, and then show day this year, like my second show day this year. And it was like wild that in 20 months with him, almost 2 years, less than 2 years, my physique has changed the way it's changed. But we'll get to that in a second. But so signed up, started like basically a lifestyle program just to start losing weight, flexibility still in diet, but like he wanted to see again how I'm going to work doing a meal plan, doing a program with him. Started losing consistently. He started to see that my body was losing weight really well. So by early November, I remember like the last weekend, because we have something called Wine Fest here, and there's like hundreds of booths set up with different wines that come out every year. And he's like, this is your last weekend to enjoy. I said, because I said, I have tickets. I'm so sorry. I'm not selling my tickets. I'm going to Wine Fest. He's like, perfect. Well, Monday we start, prep starts Monday. And it was like November, I want to say 4th or 5th of 2022. And prep started. I did not get, and he's the type of coach that believes in not giving a dirty cheat during prep. If I get a refeed day, it's like more of my clean food. It's like more rice, more chicken, more ground beef. Like it's all of the clean foods and just like more of it so that I can fuel up and continue to see progress. I did not get a cheat day until Christmas of that December, but was continuously losing weight at a really like good rate. It started to slow down around Christmas because then I did have Christmas and whatever, and we were worried a little bit because it continued into January almost, and then prep continued into January. We were back at it hardcore. Then all of a sudden the magic happened, and I would just go boom, 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 like for like 6 or 8 weeks in a row through like January to March. My body just like I like transformed before my eyes, and like I lost through prep. And I think he started to realize like, you know, what he's as he started to get to know my body better, he knew like, okay, this is what works for her. She loses weight really well, blah, 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 blah. And then stepped on stage for the first time as a novice athlete in wellness on April 8th, 2023. And then after show was living on a high. I finished second in my first show. I finished second in novice and second in wellness for my height category, class B. And I was so beyond ecstatic. And I was like, okay, I knew before I stepped on stage that like I already liked it and I already was going to continue it. But the stage feeling was like no other. And I was like, okay, I'm hooked. Like you got me. You've got me hooked. I'm in it now. And I said, my coach like is just thank God. Like some athletes will switch back and forth between coaches, and it's like to each their own. I get it. You have to find what works for you, but I find like there's a lot of switches that happen at least in my local area, where from what I see and respect, like again, you have to find what works best. I'm just so lucky that I ask my questions. I'm a teacher, so like that's part of like who I am. I just had to ask all my questions beforehand. I talked to him in person at the gym before I even signed up. Like I wanted to make sure he knew I was, he knew who I was, and then we could like establish a relationship and kind of I could gauge his style from there. To this day, he still intimidates me. Like I don't know why. I tell him all the time. I call him dad, and it's a joke that we like laugh at now. I gave him a card the other day after show to like thank him, and it was a Father's Day card, and I was like, I crossed out like Happy Father's Day, and I put Happy Show Day. Anyways, it's a whole joke that he like low key knows about, but also doesn't know about that I call him dad behind his back. If he ever listens to this podcast, he'll laugh for sure. But yeah, so anyways, I struggled. I tried to think that like I wasn't going to struggle before the show, but like ultimately I did. I did struggle with the body dysmorphia, and as your weight naturally has to come back to a healthy level, it's hard to watch the lines and the cuts and the muscle definition go away. And I did struggle for a few months with it. But what I ultimately realize now, after doing this now a second time, is that by the end of my peak building season at the end of December this past year, I didn't look terrible. I didn't rapidly gain weight. And why I didn't, I think I owe it so much to my previous experience of losing weight in a sustainable way, building a healthy relationship with food, learning that food isn't bad. And like it's I trust me, I did struggle initially after show because you eat something off plan, you get a cheat, and you know that you're going to go up in weight, and you know that you're not going to come back down because you know that your weight is still continuously going up until reverse, like into your like when you're into your healthy building phase. Like by that point, your weight starts to stabilize. And once I realized it did finally stabilize, and that I was okay, it was better. But it took me a couple months, and most people will struggle more than I do just because they maybe didn't build those skills and those habits early on in their fitness, health journey, weight loss journey. I had to work on my mindset tremendously before bodybuilding, and I had to work on it even more post bodybuilding first show because it was ultimately that much more important to make sure that I was going to come out of this in a way that was going to still align with who I wanted to be and my goals, and like continuing on a healthy path, because I didn't want to have a toxic relationship with food where I would binge or I would restrict. And I did a little bit here and there, and I will admit to it. But once I was able to work back to a point of like healthy mindset and thinking like, okay, I'm not going to get fat. I'm not fat ultimately. And people would never say that anyways, but like my friends were always like, Megan, how do you maintain such a good, like people would tell me all the time, my friends in the gym, Megan, you're fit, you're healthy. You actually look better now. You have curve, you have all of your muscle. You still have that. Yeah, you don't have as many ab veins and lines as you did, or bicep veins, but like you look good. And like my coach reminds me that all the time. And looking back at pictures, I'm like, yeah, that's true. I didn't look terrible in hindsight in building season. So all that to say, we're here now. Decided to do it again this year. Talked to my coach at the end of last year and said, like, what are we aiming for? Are there goals? Like, can I aim to do it like the same competition that I did this year in April? Started prep in April. Did the first one. By February into prep this year already, I was like, okay, he's the type of coach that big believer in health and balance and lifestyle. And doesn't think that an athlete should ever do more than one show a year. And I love that about him. I love that about him because he has my back in every way of my life, in every aspect, in every phase. But I said, I approached him at the gym and I was scared because I was like, I didn't know what he was going to say. I said, listen, I said, can we like consider the possibility of this second show that I'd really like to do? It's only 5 weeks after. It's very like back to back. It's not very long in between. If I have a good prep and things go well, which it does for me, I find it easy. I manage things well. Can we do this show? Just because if I ever want to go to a national level, I want to test my chances in the natural competition as well, which is what the one I just completed on the weekend, and I won overall. So that was kind of incredible, an incredible experience. I'm glad I got the chance to do the second one because a few weeks before at the first one, I did do really well. I placed second, but I wanted it's almost like that second chance that I got this year to like see if I could just improve it just a little bit in between. And sure enough, I did. And so he agreed to it in February early on, and we made the plan, and we were doing the two. And as soon as the two are done, health phase. We're going back into reverse. Got to build back up, and get healthy again, and go from there and see what's next. That's a lot. I know. I could talk
No,
forever. I'm so
no,
sorry. Like,
Megan. Just let me say this. Let me say this. Do not interrupt me for this next part because I'm just going to say something real quick. In the history of this podcast, I asked the first question. So for the first time guest that I have on, I always ask that same question. Give us your backstory. Tell us, what inspired and motivated you. There have only been 2 other guests that have taken more than 20 minutes to explain that. So you are part of an elite company. Now you were 3 minutes away from breaking the record. If only you had just continued, then I would be, I would probably have confetti going right now. But you were at 22 or 23 minutes. The record is 26 minutes. I think you are number 2 because I think the third place one was like 21 minutes. So this is a rarity. This never happens. This is something normally I just get like a 3 or 4 minute answer at most. But anytime that's why I was not saying anything. I was like, Ryan, do not jinx this. Do not. I was like, let her keep going. See until she tires herself out. See how long we can go. But we got close, everyone. So again, this is not the record, but it pretty. I mean, it's the record was set by a woman that I'm pretty sure it will never be topped. I mean, that was someone who like I literally stopped her then because I'm pretty sure she would have gone on for another like 3 hours, honestly. So that one I'm gonna that one technically I don't think will ever be broken, but. Shout out to that, but I do got to go back to the beginning of your story because anytime someone mentions field hockey, I just have to ask this: why the hell do they make those sticks so low? I just see I see back problems galore for anyone that plays that sport. Why don't they just make them longer and make it be like hockey? Basically, I don't get that.
I know, and like to be fair, it should be measured in a way. Like there is a way to measure those sticks. They should be coming up to however tall the person is that's playing, guy, girl, whatever. It should come up to hip bone. It should ideally come up to hip bone. But yeah, it's a low sport. Like I tell my girls on the field, like you've got to get down low. Like field hockey, it has that flat side of the stick, and you can only play on the flat side of the stick, right? But like if you're not constantly like bent over, like I tell them do your squats because you're going to be bent down like on the ground because that ball moves fast on turf field, and if you're not like constantly keeping your stick down on the ground, think about like contact with the ball or like if you could play with more contact, like hockey has the longer stick with more contact to the puck, but like field hockey only has that little round curved end, right? So the flat side of the stick is to your advantage if you know how to use it. You can cover a lot more distance to block the shot or to block the like range of the ball that's coming at you if you keep your stick flat on the ground. But in order to do that, you have to get down low. When I tell the girls, you got to be running, we got to practice running literally on the field at a lower like stance even while running because you have to be able to control the ball and have that space to be able to block and like you move the stick and you adjust the stick to jab out or like move it across your body so that you can defensively play the ball. So it is they are shorter sticks than hockey though, and it's tricky.
Well, I'm 6'3", and just imagining me playing that sport, I could just see back problems galore and just like anytime. That's why you rarely see like really tall field hockey players because I was like, good God, that's just asking for punishment, right? So shout out to that. I mean, it is an amazing, and we have. It's pretty big in college here, and I'll watch it. It's on television every once in a while, and I'll watch it definitely if it's on. It's definitely if you haven't seen it, I definitely go and check it out. It is an interesting.
It's cool
sport,
to watch. Yeah, it's definitely cool to watch.
They gotta allow some hip checking and stuff like that though. No, with those wooden sticks, that's just asking for disaster, but
Oh yeah, you're asking for disaster and like there is none of that. No physical contact in that way in this sport. It's hard enough when you get hit with one of those hard balls in like the arm, the leg, like it leaves quite the welt on your body. That's for sure. I've experienced it.
Well, the worst thing to me too is that you played it in the summer and those goalies wear all that gear. How are you not just sweating like losing 10 pounds every game, basically just in sweat alone.
The poor goalie, like that's the thing, because she's basically wearing like hockey level of gear. But in the summer or the fall, like we play in the fall, obviously when kids go back to school, but like it is, yeah. So in the early days of September, when it's still like 30 degrees, like here, even here in Canada, believe it or not, even here in Canada, when it's like 30 degrees, it's still like it's hot.
Celsius, everyone, just to remind everyone.
Celsius. Sorry, right. Sorry, I don't know what that is. Fahrenheit. Don't even
We're the
ask me.
only country that does it right.
Actually, you're the only country that does it wrong.
I know
If you look at the
exactly.
rest of the
It's stupid.
world,
It's stupid. It's stupid.
it
Trust.
is stupid.
I would much rather
Get
have
on
my
the
weight.
metric
I
system.
would much rather have my weight in kilograms too. It's a lot more. It's a lot better, I'd say.
Well, to be fair though, we do
Yeah.
pounds for weight, but like, yeah, I know. Anyways.
It's ridiculous. But when you were getting started, I always love to ask this because everyone's genetics are differently.
Yeah.
Everyone always has that one body part that really takes off that they don't have to train as much, and then everyone has that one body part that they just have to drag behind. What was one body part that really took off for you, and what's been one body part that still to this day you just drag behind?
Oh my goodness. Well, honestly, I think that's what's been so shocking about this is that through all the years of training on my own, then through a powerlifting coach, maybe that I wasn't training the most optimally or recovering as well. But this coach that has helped me kind of finally understand and fine tune my skill in the gym, um, we've come to discover that my genetics are apparently like super huge factor to the point where, okay, I'll just little aside because if I didn't talk a lot, then who would I be right now? If you haven't discovered already, I talk a lot. Clearly, I'm a teacher and can talk your ear off all day long, so bear with me. But like this past weekend, okay, so naturals competition, a local show in my community. It's the naturals competition that's around here. Obviously it's tested for those who win and I won, so they tested me immediately. I didn't even like step fully off stage, and my friend who was working at the show, actually the girl who trains with my coach, was there. She happened to be working for the woman that's running the show, and the woman that's testing is standing right behind her, and she's like, you got to come get your ID. We got to test you like right now. There was rumors floating around the whole day that like I'm not natural, you got to test that girl, she's on shit, like, you know what I mean? Like I was like, so as much as it's like kind of insulting, it's almost like the biggest compliment ever. Because
That
I
was my
believe
biggest
like,
compliment when my friends held an intervention for me in college, and they're like, Ryan, we're getting really concerned. And I was like, you don't understand. The only thing I ever took was like the creatine stuff. That was like that was the hardest I ever went. And I was like, you don't understand.
right,
This is the
which
greatest
is
moment.
not,
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
which
And
is
I told him, I
not
was
a,
like, you don't understand. This is the greatest moment of my life right now.
right,
That you guys
exactly.
think I'm on stuff. I'm so flattered.
Exactly. And like people think that creatine is like a thing. Like they think it's a PED. It is not a PED. I'm like, people, guys. I'm a health coach too. Like I know a little bit. Creatine we create in our bodies. You're taking a supplement to increase your muscle mass by like repairing and like just like when you tear your tissues when you're working out, it helps repair, like it helps you build up more mass, and women are afraid to take it mostly too because of that reason. Anyways, but like that's another story, I guess. But yeah, no, they immediately tested me. The rumors were floating around. That girl's on PEDs, like definitely got to test her. Anyways, was I beyond proud to pee in that cup and have my urine sent to Toronto to have it tested? Yes, I freaking was. But anyways, as we're coming to discover, obviously my genetics are playing a huge factor because I was roughly about 7 pounds, 5 to 7 pounds heavier on stage this year at my first show than I was last year on stage. So my coach, when we kind of started to see that shaping up this prep, like he was like, you as a woman, as a natural athlete, to have 7 pounds or, between 5 and 7, let's say, of mass added to your body in 8 months of off season. Cause like, keep in mind, I competed in April, had 8 months of a building phase, end of December, and then got into prep in January. So really I'm not building anything after January when I'm starting to cut. Right. So to cut for 4 months, I had an 8 month off season, an 8 month building phase. So to put on that much mass as a female athlete naturally is kind of beyond my wildest dreams. Boggled my
Little suspicious if I'm no, I'm just kidding.
mind. Go to Toronto and
Yeah.
get my pee sample and test my blood, you know what I mean? Or test my urine. Anyways, no, I'm just kidding. But like, I would say like, it's hard to say what the muscle group or area that, is hardest for me to train because I did phases of different workouts last year in the off season to see what was going to grow the most. And like, obviously focus for wellness is legs. So my initial program coming out of show was legs, like leg focus, 3 days, legs, 2 days, uppers. In the summer, I did a short program, like a 2 month program. It was about an 8 week, not a 12 week or 16 week program where I did like a little bit more upper focused. but he was supposed to be 3 months, but he quickly changed that around at the end of like, it started at the end of July, went to like maybe September. He quickly changed that around because he realized like, okay, upper body dominant girl who could arguably be in figure as well and probably should do a crossover. Let's stop your upper body because your biceps and your delts are growing way too fucking quickly. Let's stop this and get back to training legs harder. So from the end of the like for the whole rest of the year, like the rest of the year from like basically like October to December, end of building season, we went back to the 3-2 split between legs, 2-day hamstring and glutes, which was that was probably the area that I needed to train the most. So I would say if there was anything, there was like it was hamstrings and glutes. But I mean, honestly, I think that was the biggest transformation because that's the one I worked on the most, and that was probably my best feedback coming into the show in terms of growth. So we realized how quickly that also grew over time as well because like my back pose for example like was just completely transformed in my pictures this year on stage. So hamstrings and glutes were maybe an issue before, but like if I eat the right way and I'm training the right way and like again I'm not on anything, so just taking my creatine and my pre-workout and all my vitamins that I'm supposed to take, if the ingredients are right, the sauce is mixed up the right way, it seems like I just have an ability to do that. That's what everybody keeps telling me. So I'm kind of lucky, I guess. Lucky, but I train like obviously I know I train hard and I train to improve. So
So you're a gym bro at heart, basically, with the biceps and the delts being the one thing that took off, really
low
heavily.
key, like yeah, and knowing that my coach he has to talk to me like we're gonna meet up for coffee at some point like soon, go over post show mindset, all those things because he knows ultimately I'm going to struggle, but also to talk about training going forward. And I already know, like I know it before he does it. Like I knew it coming out of show last year what the focus was going to be, which was my legs. It's going to be in my legs again, but this time I know it's going to be like legit for 4 leg days a week is going to be what it is. And if I have any upper, it'll be like a day, maybe. And knowing that I went through one full off season, I looked fine. I came out of it. I wasn't like fat, like let's say, like I thought in my head. I was crazy in my head a little bit, but like knowing what I know now, I'm actually more excited this time. And I'm not saying I'm not ever going to struggle in my head, but I know that it's going to be easier this time because I have a better mindset already. Like this time last year, like a couple days out of show, I was already like, as this is gonna sound really bad, and my coach, if he's listening to this, will hate me. But he kind of already low key knew it anyways. But like I was skipping meals because I didn't want to like I was scared to increase my calories. I wasn't I was overdoing cardio. So like what I was doing for cardio in my prep, it's almost like I felt like in my head I have to keep doing cardio at like an hour because if I don't sweat and keep the weight off, like I'm not going to be okay. I have not done that and haven't even felt the urge to do that once this week. And I'm keeping in mind that there might be days where I might feel like that. I'm just kind of riding this wave of positive body image right now because again, I know I'm still really lean, but like I haven't tried to overdo my cardio this week. I'm just doing my 20 minutes like I'm supposed to do. I'm eating all my meals, like even my pre-workout meal, the one that I always tend to skip if I was going to skip one for some reason. I don't know why it's the carby one that I want to like tend to want to skip. But I've been eating all my meals and I'm like, nope, I'm committing to this 100% because if I think back to even last year, like if I achieved amazing things in my off season as it is, what could I achieve this next time if I follow my protocol to a T better than I did last year? Like, and I didn't, if anything, I didn't binge. I restricted more to try and keep lean. But like, if I do follow it the way I'm supposed to, maybe I'll put on even more muscle this time. You know what I mean? Like eating all that I'm supposed to eat and blah, 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 how it works, science and calorie surplus. So
What do your students think about your bodybuilding? Like as you get closer to a show, what do they think about seeing their teacher look jacked?
oh my God, it's so funny that you asked that. Oh God, here goes another story. But they think it's absolutely incredible. I'll try and keep it as short as I can, but like they think it's absolutely incredible. And I obviously have to be careful about what I show because like I'm in a bikini, like arguably, right? So I can show them pictures if I'm wearing my robe or whatever. Like there's a couple students that, like, and plus it's middle school students, so I have to be
Oh
even more
God.
careful. Yeah, I have to be even more careful. But in the aspect that like I'm achieving something incredible with health and fitness, that I'm pushing myself, that I'm driven, that I'm goal oriented, they think it's absolutely crazy cool. And it's so funny because I teach grade 7, but like for example, I'm off teaching right now. I'm doing my master's. I'm a busy person too. I'm off doing my master's degree like full time as a full time student. So I went back to school. I got approved for time off basically from January till the end of the school year. I don't know what is happening with these
Is
balloons,
for
but
some reason, whenever you do stuff, so like if you do like a thumbs up, the thumbs up will pop up for some reason. Then if you like, it's
that's so
the
weird.
AI is crazy. Like I first thought that it was someone else like watching. I was like, wait, do you have someone
That's
else like watching
crazy.
and doing that? But like apparently, yeah. So even when your thumbs like that, see that's why the thumbs up keeps popping up. So
Oh my God, that's so
when
cool.
I
But it's
first
kind of
realized that
weird. Anyway,
when I first realized that I thought I was being hacked, and I was like, wait, is someone just messing with me? But then I just realized no, it's just the AI of the stupid computer. Yeah.
that's insane. Anyways, okay. So yeah, long story short, I'm doing my master's degree right now in education to upgrade just, my certification and get higher pay and all the things, right? So I've been off for a bit and it's so great because it gives me the time to study and focus on my studies. But I also don't make my full salary. Like the way it works here, it's kind of weird. You don't make your full salary. It's kind of like a mat leave when women go on mat leave. So my district or my my local province like allows me to supply teach a few days to like bring up my salary just to make basically the equivalent of what I'd normally make at my full salary. So sometimes I'm actually at my school just supply teaching, filling in for the day, like whatever. So sometimes I'm in different classes and I get to know different students. It's fun because students that I didn't even teach in other classes, I'm getting to know now. And there's some boys in particular in grade 8. So I don't teach grade 8 students, but like the boys in particular are obviously very fascinated. And like if I wear a short sleeve shirt to school, they're like, Madame, you're so like they say Madame because keep in mind that I'm in a bilingual province. I teach French. So like, they call me Madame. They speak French to me, like whatever. So they say, Madame, you're so jacked. Like, oh my God, your arms, this, and like, so like I was sitting, and for example, even yesterday, I was at school, I was working yesterday, and like a bunch of them will come up to me and like sit with me in a circle at lunch, and they'll be like, so like, what do you eat in a day? Like, what do you eat to get jacked? Like, what kind of protein? What kind of carbs? Do you do this? Is creatine a drug? Like, they'll ask me all the things, and they're so fascinated by it, and like I love it because they're getting interested in something. It's so important for kids and youth to get interested in this. And obviously, I will always tell them, I always say, please don't ever try that junk. Do it the healthy and safe way. Please ask your parents. You have to make sure you're eating enough. Please take the time to do this the right way. You're young. Your hormones are not even fully there yet. You're not fully developed. For the boys, your testosterone doesn't hit peak until like mid 20s. Like you guys have so much time. Do not rush this process. Learn, ask me questions, like listen to podcasts, like whatever. Do what you're gonna do. Go to the gym, start easy, do plyometrics. Like a lot of them do plyometric stuff and whatever. Do that stuff, enjoy, play sports, and gradually work your way into it. Don't rush it. Don't rush into the PEDs and all the junk because you're not going to be healthy. And it breaks my heart to see the kids get into it at like 19, 20 when they're technically allowed to start taking it. But like, I just don't want to see it ruin their lives that young. Like it would just absolutely destroy me. So I'm trying to set up a positive image and a positive example for them to see that a woman can do it too. Their teacher can do it, and just that you can work hard at anything and achieve your goals, whether it be physical, like in fitness and nutrition or whatever, or any aspect of your life. I hope to be that like role model that they can always open up to and ask questions and just kind of find out how to actually have a good work ethic. Because that's the thing that's lacking so much nowadays from kids, right? Like in school and just growing up, they're not driven, they're not motivated, they don't have a strong work ethic, they're distracted by technology, all of the things, COVID, like it's just been a whole like generational thing, unfortunately. That's what we're living in. And I'm trying to just set up that you can have a passion for something outside of freaking technology and your phones and video games and all that. And anyways, yeah.
She's saying that as she's on a podcast, everyone.
As I'm
No,
using my phone and technology,
no.
but,
It's again, like I said, if Instagram didn't provide me this platform and like social media, I would not even be using it at all myself. Honestly, I only
right?
honestly use it for this. But
Yeah.
I do gotta say, like I see it's worse here in the States where you see like trend challenges with like 16-year-old boys, and you're like, Jesus.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and some of them are even like 15, and I've had like literally teenagers reach out to me and they're like, what should I take? And I was like, as someone who's never taken anything in my entire life, I just tell them, I was like, just don't. I was like, dude, if it should be like, wait until you're like 25 or something, like wait until you're like 25 or 30, and if you've worked your butt off till then, otherwise reach your genetic potential before you even touch anything, because then otherwise you're just wasting your genetic potential.
Exactly. And like, why not test your genetic potential and see what it's going to give you naturally? Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm so not knowledgeable about it anyways. Like, even if somebody were to ask me, like somebody told me the other day, I was like, this is how unknowledgeable I am about the shit. Like, and like, I don't know if it proves that I'm, anyways, whatever. People are going to think what they're going to think all the time, but like, whether it proves it or not, said to me the other day, they're like, yeah, some of my friends do it. And like the women especially take pill form. I didn't even know that there was a pill form. I thought it was injections. I thought it was all injections, but apparently men tend to do more of the injections and women tend to do more of the pill form. I didn't know that. I didn't know there was, anyways, it's just like, I'm just enjoying, I enjoy training for training's sake. I've always pushed myself. I'm just that goal driven, like disciplined person who likes to see progress, and I will push myself till my absolute limits to see that progress on my own. And to me, like, anyways, again, each their own. I see it as a cheat code, and I'm not a cheater, I guess. Like, anyways, again, I don't even want to get into that because I know, like, I respect. We all work hard, whether you do that or not. Everybody's working hard, and I know that. I can acknowledge that. But I just refuse to get there that way. If I have the genetic potential, I'm going to use it to my advantage.
Yeah, for me, it's like the only I would be against it, but the thing is, they don't test for it like at the NPCs, and let's be honest, like
No.
everyone does it. So then for me, it's like
Yeah.
if everyone's doing it, basically, then I don't have a problem with it. And plus, it's like you still got to work your butt off. But like I said, yeah, like if there was like all natural, if there was like 9 natural competitors and then 1 non-natural, then yeah, I'd have a problem with it. But like if
Well,
everyone's
yeah.
on it, then I'm just like, you know what, fine. And again, like I don't have any problem with anyone taking it actually, but like, but
Yeah.
I just wouldn't do it myself, and I wouldn't encourage others to do it.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, to each their own. I always say, like, I respect, you work hard, you still work hard, do whatever you want that's best for you. I can appreciate that. That's fine. But like, I just choose not to. It's like people who chose to get the COVID vaccine or not. We're not even going to get into that argument, but it's like whoever chose to get the COVID vaccine or not.
YouTube
It's
is going to
each,
cancel this podcast if we get into that.
YouTube is going to, we're going to talk about all kinds of controversial topics today. But like, for example, a couple weeks ago, like, well, the show that I did in April is the same one, like, around here locally, that I did in April of last year as well. I knew I wanted to do that same show. It's one of the bigger shows around here. It's fun. It's exciting. It is an open show. It is an untested open show. I finished silver last year in 2 categories, novice and my height class, and I finished silver again this year. I am up against unnatural people. If I can finish second in my category against unnatural athletes, I think that's amazing. And the girl who beat me was in the natural competition with me as well because she's natural as well. So, you know what? Friggin' good for us, 2 natural athletes competing top 2 and getting like top 2 placings. Like, she is a badass. She works hard. She looks great. We just flipped. Like, she got first and I got second, and then I got first and she, like, so. But there's others there that you compete against that that aren't natural. And I always have to accept that if I want to go into those open shows and test my chances, which I kind of do because it's kind of fun to know that you can walk in and do really well against those athletes too. Then I'm gonna keep doing it, and I have to accept that, like, that's the nature of the sport. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, and
So
I've always said if you're not natural and you get beat by a natural person, then that's kind of your calling. That maybe shouldn't be your sport. I'm sorry, but I find that hilarious too. That there are some people that do. That's just my own personal thing. Was like if you're not natural and you get beat by a natural person, time to maybe hang up the shoes because it's like that's just. But that's again a whole different thing. But I do got to ask in French, how do you say "Madame, you look jacked"? Just in case I ever run into someone who's French.
oh, how would I even say that? Because like
Because I was
Jack,
gonna say like it's a different translation for French. I was wondering like what do they use as a substitute for it?
I would say, like, if I were to say it, like, because we have, like, so around where I'm from, we have a special dialect too that kind of combines and mixes French and English. So normally, if I were talking to my French friends around here, we kind of mix the two. I would say, like, I would be like, the kids would say, like, Madame T Jackie, but like it's taking Jack and like putting like an accent on the end. But if I were to say it like maybe more proper French, it would probably be something like Madame tu es bâtie, like mean you're built, tu es bâtie. Yeah. So
Yeah. So before we wrap things up here, I mean, I do gotta tell you my French story. So this is I've
tell.
never spoken a lick of French in my entire life, but I had a friend over. I was having a bonfire. This was like in college, and I had a
Okay.
couple of friends over, and he brought his girlfriend over, and she's a French major. I did not know what this meant, so I said, "Oh, French, really? Oh, voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?" And I did not know what that meant. And then she goes,
Oh.
"Oh, no, thank you." And then I was like, "Oh, okay." And she seemed like kind of offended. So I was like, "Oh, wait, what does that actually mean?" And then she told me what it means. And I was like, "Oh, I just embarrassed myself for life here." So
That is the
didn't,
classic like go-to sentence in French that everybody says. And if you don't know
yeah,
French, if the more you know kind of thing.
yeah,
If you don't know what that means, it's like be careful who you say that to. That's for sure.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I learned that the hard way, everyone. So go and do that. But just as you've been on in this journey, it's so much more of a mental struggle than it is a physical struggle, and
It
most
is.
people will never understand that unless they compete. But what has this
Yeah.
journey been like for you mentally?
Well, like I said, it's been the greatest gift and the hardest struggle at times. It honestly, like, I have many life experiences that have led me to develop a stronger mindset in all aspects. Because, like I said, I'm a super goal driven person. I've got businesses I'm starting that I want to like excel in, my teaching career, but also bodybuilding and fitness and nutrition and all that. Like, I have so many life goals that, like, this all of them are interconnected in the sense that because they've all challenged me to work either on something physical or mental, like a mental struggle or whatever, to get past a blockage. They're all tied in because it spills into every aspect of my life. So me building a stronger discipline and a stronger mindset through bodybuilding allows me to be a better teacher and more resilient teacher. It allows me to have a better business mindset and realize that, business goals take time to build and to network and to meet people, and everything takes time. If you're willing to stick to something for long enough and to not give up in the face of adversity and pick yourself back up after defeat and after failure, then ultimately you will achieve anything. What you believe to be true is true. So if you believe you can do it, then you will. And if you believe that you can't, you won't. I tell that to everybody all the time. Like, it is as simple as that. It's as strong as your own mindset. You can't, like, outwork your own belief. Limiting beliefs, I believe, is truly what holds people back from success. And we're always going to doubt ourselves. Like, I'm always going to doubt myself. Like, I'm always going to doubt myself, but I have to be strong enough in the mind to always work on my relationship with food, always believe that I can achieve, always believe that I can keep going after failure. Like, to the point where people have reached out to me, whether it was after show the other day, right away in person, in the last couple of days, congratulating me. There have been countless people that have said, like, okay, so when are you stepping on a national stage? When are you going for your pro card? Like, you're ready now. Like, but in my head, I'm like, no, no. First of all, I know I need to get back. My coach would not let me. Like, we got to get back to healthy. Like, right. But I'm like, wow, that's so flattering. I'm so touched. I'm so humbled because I, in my head, truly believe I'm not ready. I don't think I'm ready. I don't feel like I've achieved my best yet to be able to go and step on that stage nationally. So, like, nationals, for example, is coming up in 3 days. It's in Toronto in 3 days. And I have, like, there's friends that I know that are going to compete in that show who look phenomenal. I don't feel like I'm at their level yet. So I'm going to keep working. But it is a compliment, I know, for people to tell me that. It does help play into my mindset and build my positivity and my confidence in myself for sure. But I will never not work on my mindset because I will always have doubts in my head about my own potential, about my own abilities. And like anything in life, physical or, like I said, mental, is all about your mindset. How you have perspective on situations will ultimately determine any successful situation that you encounter. And the more you go after opportunities, the more you feel those feelings of success, no matter how small or how big, fuels us to get to the next goal. If you aim to be 1% better every single day, then you'll achieve 1% better every single day. And that's enough. Like, people think that they have to go from 0 to 100 overnight. My weight loss wasn't that way. My teaching career has not been that way. My bodybuilding journey has not been that way. Like, nothing is that way ever. Nothing is perfect ever. So we just have to accept that it's not going to be easy. There's going to be defeats. There's going to be bumps in the road, but it's how we face those bumps in the road and what mindset we have around them, what perspective we keep around those situations, that allows us to progress and move on and be successful.
Couldn't agree more. And now we go to the hardest question. If you could change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, what would you change? And everyone would go along with it.
Oh, there's several things. Like, I
You can do
realize
more than one.
if I could change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding is I'd probably say the comparison game that it plays and the toxicity of the community it can create. Because I'm lucky in the sense that, like, I feel like I found people that I genuinely connect with. I hope that's the case, that these are truly friends that are becoming friends, but I'm not naive to the fact that you still have to watch your back and you still have to whatever, this, that, and everything, because people were talking about me using steroids the other day at a natural show. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
believe me, I'll be spreading that like wildfire when I'm done talking to you. Just telling everyone, like,
right,
look at this girl
exactly.
who's
Like, you're
clearly
gonna
on
go
steroids.
you're gonna go find my picture on my Instagram, and then you're gonna be spreading my picture around, like, oh, that girl, like, she was at a natural competition, she won the overall, but
Dude,
yeah,
she's on like 200 milligrams of test. She told me off record.
yeah, secretly, like, I'm just like behind the scenes using that. Oh, there we go. We're stirring up all the rumors right now. But it would be probably the toxic, even in the public side too. Like, but it has to change within the community of bodybuilding to be able to change the public's perspective. And that's what sucks, because it's never going to change within the realm of the bodybuilding world, unfortunately, because there's always going to be competitors comparing and talking behind people's back and judging and critiquing, and that's what it's literally all about. I mean, like literally to the basics of judges watching and criticizing and critiquing a physique on stage. It's all bias. It's all based on opinions. Like whether there's criteria or not from the pros and the pro leagues, it comes down to at the end of the day, sometimes who they like better, who looks better that day, who has a better presentation that day. Like it's so subjective, and the subjectivity and the comparison of the sport is something that I would change if I could. But at the same time, it's like, well, it wouldn't be what it is if there wasn't that aspect of the judging and the critiquing and the compare. Like, how would we determine the winner? How would we, like it's a sport ultimately, it's a competition. So how would we determine that in the long run, anyways? But I would take it away. I would take away that toxicity from the who says what about who behind their backs, and like try to self sabotage. There's like a lot of sabotage that happens in that community, in that world. So I would definitely, that would be the first thing hands down I would take away from the sport, to start changing the perspective of it for sure.
Well, and you mentioned that you did powerlifting and now you're doing bodybuilding. Do you incorporate any powerlifting into your bodybuilding training, or do you just always do like time under tension? Like, how do you incorporate different styles of working out into your lifts?
I love that. Definitely, definitely. Like I still do my compounds, but I definitely like every now and again, like I'm always still trying to push strength. So yes, I'm not doing like training for 1 rep maxes with 3-minute rest times in between, but like for example, yesterday I was already able to push my RDLs from like 225 to 230. Like I pushed it 5 more pounds, or sorry, it was like 245 to 255 actually. And like 10 pounds up. Like I was like, it was a struggle, but knowing that I pushed that PR for like 10 reps, I was like, okay, sweet. Like where can we be in another 4 weeks? I'm not going to aim to push that every single week. Like, or, push that up every single week is what I mean. I might say at 255 now for the next 4 weeks of training, but like, knowing that I did that yesterday means that I can do it again. And so I do still I love heavy lifts. I will always love heavy lifts. So the power lifter in me forever will hold on to those heavy lifts, those heavy squats. I don't do bench a lot anymore because let's get real. Like I said, my upper body does not need more growth. And that's probably where a lot of my delts came from. Like especially my front ones, but like, anyways, so but I will always appreciate like a freaking badass power lifter, and I love going to, I have yet to go see a meet, but I do want to go see a meet because I never actually competed in one myself, but they look so incredible, and the power lifter still lives inside me because obviously I still want to train upper body, and obviously I still want to push like heavy weights as much as I can. But I guess that's what I like about bodybuilding, is that I still feel like I can do that with the higher level reps, like the higher rep ranges, but I recover better because I'm more dialed in now to my nutrition, and I'm more dialed into a lifestyle of bodybuilding with sleep and stress and water and all the things that add up together to make a healthy person. So I feel like I have all the ingredients now in the sauce to be able to recover better the way I'm supposed to. Therefore, when pushing heavy weights comes to the progressive overload game, I'm able to do it and still feel relatively okay.
Yeah. It's just all about mix and mashing and just realizing that, I was that idiot too for about 3 years where I did the same workouts over and over and over again. And then you see changes for the first like 6 months. And then afterwards you're like, yep, you're seeing like 1% of the changes that you make. You'll still see a tiny bit of change, but not nearly as much as it could if you mix things up. So everyone, make sure that you do that, as well. And lastly,
it's important to push yourself. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for any people on how to recover from post-show blues or anything like that? Because that is something that I would have never guessed in a million years is something that is as prevalent as it was before I started this podcast. But then when you just realize that everyone goes through it, and so many people, like, that's the reason why they stop competing, is just because they can't handle the mental stress of that.
Oh yeah, so much to say about this too. Like, because everybody's going to experience different levels of it. Again, I come back, like, this is where I am lucky, or maybe I don't like to say even lucky, because I work at it. It's a mindset that I've worked at before bodybuilding, like after bodybuilding, but I continuously have to work on it. It's the mindset thing, but maybe I am more strongly developed in this area. Everybody's going to struggle with it to a different extent, but I would say that stick with your so many things, many tips. Stick with your coach. Your coach is going to be there in your hard times. If it's a good coach, he or she is going to stick with you and help guide you through a proper reverse. Second thing leads me into sticking with your reverse. The more adherence you can be, more adherent you can be to your plan coming out of reverse. And I'm already seeing myself being more adherent to my plan early on. Not skipping meals and stuff like that, not going out to eat too many meals off plan unless my coach gives them, you know what I mean? stick to your plan as much as possible, because the least amount of weight that you can gain rapidly is going to help your mindset in the long run. You have to gain healthy weight. I'm telling myself these messages as I'm telling the people as well. But like, the more you stick to the plan and stick with your coach, the more you're going to find that balance again. But it's also about realizing, like, you have, like, it's more like not what I would say after show, but what I would say to somebody now going into a show. If you're not ready for this mentally, then you might want, if you struggle with body image issues before, or eating disorders, or like things like this, bodybuilding might not be the thing for you, because you have to have that stronger mindset afterwards. Well, I already had that built, and even I struggled afterwards a bit. So if they're not ready for it before show, it's going to be a struggle afterwards. So assess that too, like if there's somebody that's considering it. But if you've already gone through it and you're trying to get back to it, well, commit to doing affirmations, commit to working with your coach, commit to sticking to your plan as much as possible. You will get to a point, I promise, that you will love your body again. You will have a good relationship with food again, if you promise yourself that you'll work on it. One thing that I did was, like I said, affirmations. Somebody told me that, like, on the days that I cried looking at myself, like, in the mirror, I'm going to cry right now thinking about it. So sorry. Because I know that it's still going to happen.
Talking to women, everyone, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, stop. On the days, and like, that's the thing, my coach laughs at me all the time, because like, you women have such an attachment with your bodies, but like, on the days where I would literally look at myself and pick every flaw apart as like the lines go away and I don't see my ab lines anymore, and like, I hate myself sometimes. Whoo! I would write out a new sticky note, or 5, that said all of the things that I am, that I know that I am logically, like my logical brain knows that. And I would stick them on a mirror downstairs. Like, I have mirrors, like full length mirrors in my basement, like in another room. And I would go down and look at myself and sit there for a second and just like read them all over and over again. um, until a few months after show last year, I started to believe them again. And I didn't need to hear them from external people as much. I still always needed that, like, and not that I'm even like looking for that external validation, but like, you have to have, that's another thing. You have to have a community of people around you who are going to be there to have your back, to support you, to love you, to not criticize you, not judge you, and like hold your hand, almost like, not literally, but like hold your hand through this process afterwards. Have a spouse, like whether it's a spouse or, like I said, a family member, a friend, that's going to guide you to becoming back, like, come back to your best self, because this is a hard process on everybody, and everybody, like I said, is going to live it to a different extent for a different period of time. Some people live this for years. Some people will never go back to competing because of it. And I know people who didn't go back to competing because of it, but are finally coming back to just living a normal fitness lifestyle, where they have balance and where they have flexibility and they feel better about their bodies. And respect to them too, because we all have to find that, whatever we have to find, we have to find what makes us happy again, whatever that might be. For me, it is still competing. And for me, I do know that if I'm going to stay in the competing, I have to accept that I'm going to go through these ups and downs, and that's going to have to make me stronger in between. And hopefully it does. I think it will. But I'm going to have to accept that if I want to keep challenging myself to these competitions, like this type of competition, then I have to keep working on my mindset. And the people who don't choose to do that, respect to them as well. They know themselves hopefully enough to not put themselves through it again, and work on their body, their mindset, and to get back to a place of health, balance, lifestyle that they enjoy.
I will say this podcast has also made me, when I get up every morning, thank God that I was born a man, because talking all this, and especially like with all the body stuff that women go through, it's like, it's to be like me and just be like, with my great personality, I don't have to worry about how I look. No, but it's like just the fact that like,
Yeah.
I could put on, like 20 pounds and be like, I'm still hot. Like, so,
I think that's the thing. I think that's another thing too, is like the pressure of weight for women
Yeah.
in general in the public side. I'm not saying that men.
I'm just saying, I've talked to male bodybuilders too, and then they're obviously, they're like, yeah, I don't give a shit if how
right.
big
They
I
don't
look.
give
Yeah.
a shit. They can gain back they can gain back 20 pounds immediately after show, and they're like totally cool. Like, that's like, they're like, yeah, I'm just getting
Look
the
at me,
gains.
guys.
Like,
Yeah.
exactly. They're just getting the gains. But I think we put so much more pressure on ourselves. And again, I'm not saying that I'm not doing that double standard thing where I say
It's
men
the
and women.
majority, though. I will say that, though. Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I would say it is the majority women that do struggle with this more, and I think it comes from a place of like media and public image and all the things that we see all the time.
We grew up in the heroin chic era. That's like when we were born and raised. So it's like that.
Exactly.
That destroyed so many women.
Are.
94 was when I was born, so I'm going to turn 30 next month. Which don't even get me started on that.
I'm a 93 baby. I just turned 31 right before my first show. So I'm a 93 baby. So that's the thing. Like, when I was mentioning like skinny, like bell bottom jeans, but like thigh gap and like tiny little legs and like basically anorexic was the look. That was the desired look. So I have that ingrained into my youth, that I still remember that Now I know that like my body shape is now much more desired than it was ever before. But like it's still in my brain like overweight, underweight, like all the body issues is still very deeply rooted in me. And I think coming from, especially from a weight loss, like I've always either been on a weight loss journey or a weight maintenance journey. I've never had to put weight back on. So that first initial like reverse phase last year after show was like a shock to me. Like again, I didn't do it wrong. I did my reverse pretty well, other than skipping meals and trying to overdo cardio. But like realistically, when I look back, my coach was like, "Your reverse went literally perfectly. You gained like 5 pounds and held that for like 2 weeks. I had to keep increasing your food so freaking fast because I wanted you to put on more mass, but you kept not putting on mass because I was skipping food." But like I did it so well in that sense, like it went on very gradually as it should. And I came to about like at the max, I think I was like 20, 25 pounds over show weight, which is a very normal after about 6, 8 months of building. Like I was healthy, but I just in my mind, always having lost weight, in my mind, I'm like, you see the scale go up and you can't control it. And you're just like, I know this is supposed to happen, but I don't want it to happen. Right? You see your body at what you think is like the ideal standard of what you want as a physique. You see that lean physique and you're like, that's exactly what I've always dreamt of having. But it's literally for one day. So if I'm telling people this, like what to expect, your body is not meant to stay like that. It is for one day. It is an unrealistic level of lean. You are like salting your food to shit on peak week. You're dehydrating your body by cutting the water. Like it is not healthy that last like little bit. You can be as healthy as you want throughout the prep, and then that last little bit is so unrealistically lean that like just like I'll give you an example. Even this week, I am happy with my body. I'm drinking my normal water again. I realize already I still have lots of lines, but they're not as like cut as they were even last week because I'm just getting water back into my body, just getting water back into my tissues and like filling out a little bit like normally. So, and like I'm keeping that in mind too because I'm like, that's not body fat. That's just like literally filling back my muscles with water and some like extra carbs from my meal plan that I needed to just kind of be at almost a normal.
Well, the only reason I was looking away is because I was looking at photos of you because I do look at photos of guests like before I come on, just get a
Yeah,
good look. But I will
no
say I
problem.
remember when we were first talking about being on the podcast, I just assumed that you were a figure competitor. So what are your plans for next year? And because you said you were thinking about maybe crossing, but no, because I saw videos of like your cap delts and then you like your upper body, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
that's like
yeah.
if you would have put a gun to my face and say guess for division, I would have said figure. So I would be dead, everyone. But again, that just goes to show how things are different. But like, do you have any like for next year? Where would you like to be at just in competing, like when we have you on a year from now? Because I will definitely talk to you in a year because
Oh,
obviously if
perfect.
you're a talker, which I love more than anything else, which means I have to do less work, which I appreciate more than anything. But
Yeah.
where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding journey when we have you on in a year from now?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. Well, like that's the thing. So we'll have to see. I'll have to make a plan with coach. We'll see where we're at because I'm not, like I am 31 and I am married now, and like family is in there somewhere at some point. Like I do hope to have a family. But now these people getting all these like ideas of stepping on a national stage is getting in my head now, and I'm just like, ooh, when does this happen? Like, when can we make this happen? Is this going to be like? But am I going to do it at least once before kids? Or, anyways, I'm thinking about all the things. This time next year, I would like to have. I'm aiming for another like 5 to 7 pounds of mass. I'm not gonna lie. Like if I could push myself to gain another 5 to 7 pounds of lean tissue, obviously I know that that's gonna like within a 20, 25 pound range of extra weight. There's gonna be some fat in there. Obviously I
Drug
know that.
test this woman every day, everyone.
Every day next year, guys, you're gonna have to drug test me every day. Just kidding. But like 5 to 7 pounds of lean mass would be a goal. Obviously, again, like I said, weight's gonna come up to 20, 25 pounds more, but whatever that is, what it is. That has to be the situation to live a life. But I see myself sticking to wellness. I knew from my first show because borderline, like in my first show, people were like, you could borderline cross over into bikini, wellness, and figure. You have enough upper body to do figure. You are probably big enough. This freaking thumb thing,
You're
I swear to God.
no. What I'll do is I'll have a photo pop up of you whenever it happens, still too, so the people are. But I will just say your upper body in bikini would be hilarious.
Well, that's the thing. And I was like, so, but that's the thing. So I was like, my coach early on in prep first show was like, you should consider doing a crossover into bikini because we didn't know how my body was going to shape up. The more I leaned out, he was like, yeah, you're definitely not going to cross over into bikini. You're definitely wellness, borderline figure, but we're going to keep you in wellness for now. Like, we're just going to do wellness. But immediately after show, though, that first show, I was like, no, no, I want wellness. I will grow into I will grow into it as long as it takes. not that I have anything against figure, and I'm very aware that like my coach has always told me and is still telling me you need to do a figure crossover. He's like, I think you could take overall in both. I took my overall in wellness. He said I still think you could take overall in figure, but that's the way it's going to be for now. I just don't have an interest in figure. It's not the style that I want. To each their own. I love figure. It has a beautiful look and so many people are beautiful in it. I have a friend that just rocked it on Saturday in figure and she's stunning. She looks beautiful and it can be very feminine. It's just not my style of posing or plus it's like extra money, extra suit, extra learning how to pose. Like
I've said this a million times. They definitely do need to add variety to their posing because it's the most bland posing out there, and I have nothing but respect for figure competitors. And I've had hundreds of
100%.
them on, but it's like you need to definitely change things up to generate more interest.
I agree. And like I get that it's obviously showing up an incredible upper body physique and like that's what's incredible in itself. Like those women are jacked and built and like I know I am too and I can do it, but like I will keep growing into the category of wellness. So where do I see myself next year? Honestly, still doing wellness and bigger, bigger and better and maybe big enough by that point naturally to who knows, step on a national stage depending on timing. Cause like I know I have a qualification, like I finished overall. So if I have a qualification for a certain amount of time, but I don't know when the qualification like period ends for me. Like I know it's a year, but I don't know when the show next year nationally would be. I know the national open show would be before my Europe trip in the summer. And that's another thing. I'm going to Europe next year. So like it's tricky, right? Like I'll have to like if I do compete next year, it would have to be aligning with that show. I freaking love this thing. Anyways, you're gonna put my picture every time. But it would have to align with either before that or as soon as I get back, I start into prep if it's after, you know what I mean? Like if it's after my Europe trip in July. So we'll see. It might be the year that I take off. Um, you know, as I lead into like my Europe trip and then maybe starting a family. And then I plan on continuing this no matter what, though. I know my life will look different. I know that things will be harder with children, but this is not something that I ever see myself stopping anytime soon, whether it takes me like maybe the next time I compete will be when I'm 35 plus. Maybe I'll be in the masters category. You know what I mean? So, and that's fine too. Maybe I'll sweep some more medals with masters as an added category to my name. Right. So who knows? I don't know. We'll see. Definitely not done competing.
They got to change the name of masters though too, because like 35 is not that old to be like saying like you're a master. It's like make that maybe 45 maybe or something like that. But like 35 is still young. Like it's not.
Well, that's what I mean. And I mean I know they have I think grandmasters though starts at like 45 or whatever 50. I can't remember what it is exactly, but like I know to call masters. Well, it's like they say with freaking. That's why I'm like I still feel the fucking pressure to. Sorry again swearing. I've done really well so far actually. So I'm gonna let that one go. I'm gonna let that one go. Like they say 35 is when geriatric pregnancies happen, like for like childbearing. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding? I think that's why I'm still putting so much fucking pressure on myself to like have kids before then. Cause I don't want to be the woman that's like 35 over starting to have kids. But like anyways, it's just the whole thing. There's so much pressure on women, man. I tell ya.
Another guy reason right here, baby. I can have kids when I'm 85 if I wanted to.
I know. I literally live on a genetic timeline for that shit. So
be like Robert De Niro having kids at 80 for some reason. But you know, yeah,
oh
it's possible.
God. Gross.
If you're not going to live to see them graduate high school, what's the point, really?
Right. Like, hello. Exactly.
Anyway, yeah, we could get into that whole talk. Again, I could get canceled with you for any reason, basically. And again, Megan, I could talk with you till tomorrow, basically, if we really wanted to.
100%.
But we're both incredibly busy people, and I am just absolutely starving. So, again, I would love to have you on for another like 3 hours, but for just the sake of the listeners, we're gonna have to wrap things up now. But again, everyone, go and check out Megan. I'll leave a link to her Instagram page down below. Buyer beware, you will get inspired to get it out off that couch and start, getting in shape. But again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It's been such an honor. Thank you so much. I've never been on a podcast. Hopefully this leads to more opportunities to be on podcasts to share my story.
Just do your own podcast with the amount that you talk. Jesus Christ. You could like
honestly, like you have no idea. People have actually said this to me. You start your own podcast. That's the next thing I need to add to my like list of things that I want to do.
So if you would have told me you were a teacher, I would have invited you on even sooner because there are some professions that I automatically invite. If you were in news, like newscasting anyway, if you're another podcaster, if you're a teacher, or any job that requires you to talk a lot, I want to have you on because you're just the easiest person to talk to, where it's like you talk to those people and you're like, okay, like this is like no, and you talk to some other people where like they give you like 2-word answers and you're like, oh, this is going to be rough.
I literally, before I was a teacher, I grew up doing public speaking too. Like my dad was a teacher. He like pushed me into all the things. So not only sports, I was very well versed in other areas of my life. And I did public speaking competitions as a thing. Like I am just, you won't have to run into anybody else other than me that like speaks as much as me. Like definitely hands down of my friends, they tell me to shut up on a regular basis. So
Same here, same here. But again, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.
thanks, guys. Thank you.